Hi, I built a set of ChatGPT templates to help you practice the interviewing. And specifically, what I did is I've created a prompt for ChatGPT to focus on a particular leadership principle with specific follow-up questions. And then you can take that prompt, copy and paste it into the ChatGPT, tell it to start the interview, and it will start sort of Q&A, which is kind of cool. It obviously doesn't look like a real person. There's still a lot more work that needs to be done, but at the same time, it's a good practice to kind of start thinking on your toes to have the answers ready for some of the follow-up questions. And so, yeah, let me show you a little bit how to find that and where how to use it. So if you go to the our tech interview prep community, and if you go to classrooms, and if you select the interview prep and go to the one of the Chat GPT templates here, it's under a role play with Chat GPT section. You can copy and paste the template that starts under that divider. I do provide brief instructions here. They're very simple. You copy paste this into your ChatGPT prompt on mobile or whatever you have access to the conversation mode, which is using those that headset icon. So you copy paste that prompt and then you say, let's start the interview, and then the interview starts. So let's take a look at the at one of those examples. Let's start the interview.
Thank you for joining today. Let's dive into the leadership principle of ownership. Can you tell me about a time when you took complete ownership of a project or an initiative? Please describe the context, the problem you faced, why it was important, and your role in that situation.
So when I joined Assurance, I was a director of engineering. And one of the problems the engineers had was the lack of prioritization, which ended up randomizing a lot of engineers, and a lot of the projects were not completed on time. Engineers' morale was going down. So I took on the task to create a prioritization process across all of the engineering teams to ensure that the executive leadership understands what projects are in flight, what projects are being worked on. And if they ask for an additional project to get prioritized, they can see where it fits in and what other projects need to drop in terms of priority. So that was a very useful process and exercise that I created, and the president of the company was very excited that that was put in place.
Thank you for sharing that. Why was the deadline for creating this prioritization process tight? Can you provide more context on the scope and complexity of this task and explain why the timeline was challenging for such a scope?
Well, I actually didn't say that the timeline was tight.
Understood. Could you explain why this project was considered critical for the organization?
Yeah, the reason it was critical is because there were a lot of projects that were not being completed on time. And so the engineers would start working on one project, and then somebody would come in, drop something else on their desk, and will tell them, hey, this is more important work on this right now, without having a full picture of what else is on their plate and what's being dropped. So creating this project helps everyone to get on the same page and understand when a new project comes along or is being asked to get prioritized, they will have a good visibility and understanding of what other projects will get impacted.
Thank you for that. What was your personal motivation for taking on this task? Why did you decide to volunteer for it?
Yeah, this is a very good question. And so one of the reasons is that I saw the morale on the team was declining. And I didn't want any churn on the team, which means it would require me to spend more time hiring talented individuals, looking for them, et cetera, as opposed to focusing on some of the business objectives.
I see. Can you describe the specific actions you took to develop and implement the prioritization process?
Yes, I created a special spreadsheet which would have every engineering team listed in there. And I would allocate for every engineering team their bandwidth, so their capacity on taking specific projects for a given time frame, let's say 2 weeks, a month, a quarter. I would factor in their vacations of individuals on the team. I would factor in any of the KTLO that they had. And then for whatever the available capacity they have, I would then use it to scope and prioritize other projects so that everyone would understand why an engineering team will take on this project and it will take this much time versus that much time, etc. Or versus, for example, why they can't take on a particular project because they just don't have the capacity. And if there's a project that we need to look at that may be shifted or dropped, or moved to some other time.
Thanks for the details. What was the cadence of your work group meetings, and why was it sufficient or not too aggressive for this project?
Yeah, so for the work group, for the prioritization, I would meet monthly with the leadership across the company. And so that was sufficient because the engineering teams were executing in 2 week sprints or 1 week sprints. And so having a much more frequent prioritization would just create a lot more churn for engineering teams. So monthly cadence was just the right amount of time and meetings to create that prioritized list of projects for engineering team to work on, and then be able to produce something. Because anything more frequent, the engineers would not be able to just deliver a meaningful project in a shorter time.
Got it. What was the cadence of your updates with stakeholders? And why did you choose that frequency?
Yeah, that was monthly, like I said. So this entire prioritization project was geared towards the stakeholders, and we were meeting monthly.
Understood. Who were your customers or stakeholders in this project? And can you explain the difference between them?
Yeah, so the customers for this project were any of the end users, so primarily agents or operations teams, and the stakeholders were individuals who were in charge of those teams or in charge of the company. Like for example, it could be a CEO of the company, it could be a chief marketing officer, or it could be operations, chief operation officer, etc. So those were the primary stakeholders, and the users were, or the customers were just the end users of the software that we were building. Well, I hope this was useful to you as an example, and feel free to sign up for the course and try out some of those templates. If you have any questions, feel free to comment in the community itself, and I will be there to help you out as much as I can. Thank you, and good luck with your interviews.